Prehistoric whales. Welcome guys once again to the channel Ranking with Dinosaurs, where you rank, you guessed it, dinosaurs. And once again, as it is, a habit of mine, we're not going to be talking about dinosaurs today. I mean, I know the channel's called Ranking with Dinosaurs, but that's in name and in spirit, since we discussed a lot more than dinosaurs. But today we're going to be taking a look at another part of history, and much more to the sea. You see what I did? I'm sorry. We're going to be looking at prehistoric whales, or prehistoric cetaceans in general, since, these are animals that, decided to, they took a good look at the, at the land once they, dinosaurs went extinct, and they were like, we want no part of this, going back to fish. So, without further ado, we're going to be looking at this very interesting group, starting with BASILOSAURUS. We're going to be starting with BASILOSAURUS, probably, I would say, the most, well-known prehistoric whale. I don't know about you guys, but I do consider BASILOSAURUS fairly popular. And, I get it. BASILOSAURUS is also one of my favorite prehistoric animals. This was a genus of a large predatory prehistoric cetacean. Yes, this was during the late Eocene, and it was discovered in, as far as 1834. That's insane. With the species, Basilosaurus cetoides. At first, it was thought to be, a giant marine lizard, which, if you've seen Basilosaurus skeleton, if you haven't, I'll show you right here. I get it. Like, I can't blame these guys for thinking this was a, like a type of mosasaur or something. They probably thought this was the next step in the evolution. But as we all know, these were in fact mammalian animals. These guys were one of the largest Paleogene animals. This means one of the largest animals, period, and after the extinction of dinosaurs. They measured a max of 66 feet, or 20 meters long, and weighed 15 tons. So, these guys were the top predators of their environment. Yes, this big, and they were preying on sharks, or large fish, or other whales. Specifically Dorudon, which we have found in stomach contents on Basilosaurus fossils. Also, actual Dorudon fossils have bite marks, which, are attributed to Basilosaurus, an absolute menace in the Eocene waters. These guys had an anguilliform-like locomotion, which means they were going side to side, but, other animals do swim side to side, but their bodies were so long that, they had to do that specific type of locomotion. They did not have melons, like, modern day toothed whales. So that means no echolocation, and they probably didn't have, social dynamics as complex as, modern day orcas or dolphins. Still, Basilosaurus, an amazing animal. Am I tempted to put an S here? Yes. Am I going to act on it? Absolutely, yes. Basilosaurus S tier. PAKICETUS. Now, this guy is an amphibious cetacean found primarily in South Asia during the early Eocene. I believe Pakistan, yes, that's where the name PAKICETUS comes from. And this was a very, I would say, wolf-looking animal in appearance. Again, as wolves, and unlike whales, this guy was about 6 feet long, 2 meters long. And this animal lived around water, so not in the water, eating the likes of, fish and other small animals. And it is regarded as the most basal whale. So, in the phylogenetic tree, this guy is at the very bottom, base. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. And serves, as a representation of, the transitional form between, land mammals and, whales. Animals deciding to go back into the sea, which I don't know why would you do that, but to each their own. These guys are from the order Artiodactyla, yes, which means these guys are, whales in general are, their closest relatives are giraffes, deer, pigs, camels, and the like, yes. Actually, in their forelimbs, you can actually see some of that still carried over anatomy. But back then, still Pakiceta still had those fully functional long legs, a quadruped animal, had a long snout, and their eyes were actually positioned a much more higher on their skulls, which it's a symptom or a characteristic of much more semi-aquatic animals. You see hippos today and crocodiles do that. Still had the heterodon teeth, so they could still still had these different types of teeth in their mouths, and it's still a pretty robust tail. So seeing it from this perspective, you can start seeing where the whale anatomy is in Pakicetus, but still it looks like a freaking a long dog. It is obviously, if you see whales from today, it's one of the weirdest looking whales, but still it put the basis of cetaceans. So we're gonna put it in B tier. MACRODELPHINUS. Now this guy in particular is a primitive odontocete from early Miocene, primarily found in the marine deposits, I believe in the Jewett Sand Formation. Now this is in Southern California, so yes, the U.S. And honestly, the guy resembles much more, today's cetaceans. So not the absolute alien-looking, Basilosaurus or Pakicetus, in my opinion. So, a little bit more normal. However, still, this guy was an orca-sized, so, fairly big odontocete. And it had a very particular, anatomical quirk, I would say. And it shares it, actually, with a modern-day fish. Yes, it resembles a swordfish or today's marlins. And, I've been thinking, what characteristic might it share with these? And I think it's pretty clear. This guy had a swordfish like rostrum and auberjaw, which means that they'd use this to most definitely hunt, its prey. Again, the size of 20 feet or 6 meters in length, and it had inch long teeth. Probably in it is common consensus, even though it shared its habitat with a plethora of sharks and other seals or predatory mammals. This was most definitely an apex predator of its environment. So MACRODELPHINUS. Also have to say the name is pretty legit. I don't know if I'm gonna put an A tier. Honestly, it is a swordfish looking whale. Ooh, I think I'm gonna put it in B tier. I don't know if I love it that much. PERUCETUS. Now this guy is an early whale from Peru. Yes, shout out to South America. Lived during the Middle Eocene. Now, this just might be, the largest Eocene whale that we have discovered. Yes, even dethroning Basilosaurus. Still, it is in contention, as the length estimates have actually varied a lot since its time of discovery. Again, this discovery being fairly recently, PERUCETUS is a fairly recent genus erected, and it varies a lot, honestly. Right now, the size estimates are at between 49 and 66 feet, or 15 to 20 meters. Now, initially, it was claimed that it even surpassed the modern-day blue whale, which is no easy feat. But since then, much more recent, the estimates have downsized it quite significantly. One of the cool things, though, about PERUCETUS, and one of its mysteries, honestly, that still remains to this day, is the ecological niche that it filled back then. During the Middle Eocene, right now the most, the common consensus, the paleontologists have, is that it was probably a slow-moving giant that preferred much more shallow waters. Now, what it did in the shallow waters was it lumbered through the ocean floor, catching, in feeding on either crustaceans or mollusks. So, PERUCETUS, pretty awesome animal, a big boy. So I think, do I want to put it in A tier? I think I'm going to put it in A tier. I know it might be recency bias, but I kind of love PERUCETUS. ODOBENOCETOPS. Now, this guy's a small, on the smaller side for whale, small-toothed whale. And this guy is known from the Miocene of Bahia Inglesa, and the Pisco Formation, which are both in Chile and Peru, respectively. And they are mostly known, and very characteristically, mostly known for its large asymmetric tusks. Now, these are known as the alveolar sheaths, and they're thought to be sexually dimorphic. What that means is that they were strangely pronounced in males, with having one tusk which was much larger, much larger than the other one, while females appear to be much more, have a similarly sized tusks, but the longer tusks are known to reach around 4.5 feet or 1.35 meters long, which is insane for a tusk. That's reaching walrus levels of tusks. And aside from these, a couple of very important characteristics they were toothless as well. So those tusks were probably for interspecific combat, or again, because they were sexually dimorphic, probably were used for display or stuff like that. And yes, this guy were whales, so they had melons which were much more reduced, and they had a binocular vision, unlike today's whales, which aided its movements while it was eating on the ocean floor, which makes me think of Sirenians most. Yeah, I would say Sirenians is what these guys come to mind. ODOBENOCETOPS. I have been mispronouncing that name so much for the last while doing research for the video, so I actually really like it. I'm gonna put it in A tier. Leviathan. We come at the end of the tier list. I know, a bit of a short one, but we're gonna end it really sweet. Got Leviathan, the biblical sea monster, or at least named after the biblical sea monster. Yes, we have biblically accurate whales now. This is a macroraptorial sperm whale, which has only one species, Leviathan melvelli. And I have to say, macroraptorial is one of the sickest terms ever put in paleontology. Macroraptorial just sounds absolutely sick. This guy's known from the Pisco Formation. Yes, again, Peru. I don't know why there's so many predatory whales hanging out in Peru. I mean, their seafood is pretty good, so I guess I know why they were over there mostly. But Leviathan, though, has possible material from not only Peru, but Chile, Argentina, the US, South Africa, and Australia. So maybe these guys lived all over the world and all the way into the Pliocene. So, fairly recently, which is, absolutely scary, because these guys were, again, macroraptorial, which means apex predators. They feasted on everything they could see. They could get their jaws on their 36 centimeter teeth, which are the largest biting teeth of any animal. And they use these teeth to eat either whales, smaller whales, or bigger whales. We don't know, but they eat seals as well, like modern day orcas. And not only that, but smaller sharks too. So they were not discriminating when they were hungry. Again, Leviathan was absolutely huge. They reached sizes of 57 feet or 17.5 meters. Absolutely insane. They had the spermacety organ, like today's sperm whales, which they used for echolocation and communication. So not only were they absolutely terrifying, but they were very smart too. And they obviously needed all of this because they competed in the same environment as the other apex predator of the seas, which you might have heard of before, Megalodon. So this was probably, they had absolutely gladiatorial battles throughout its entire lifespans with other Megalodons. Would have been sick to watch it. So Leviathans, you know what? I'm going to put it on top. The top of S tier. They're going to be the sickest and the coolest prehistoric whale. That is going to be the tier list, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments, what is your favorite prehistoric cetacean? Which ones did I leave out? Why did I not put Ambulocetus? This was something that I actually forgot. But, maybe for the next prehistoric whale tier list, I'll put Ambulocetus in the tier list. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, thank you for the support. Keep watching the videos, for commenting. If you want to keep helping the channel, there's two things you can do. Like the video, helps a lot. subscribe. It helps even more. And I will see you guys in the next video.